The capital's defensive battle. The armored corps captain, Calguryo, didn't hide his dissatisfaction over the fact contacts were cut. The end note, the role for general is, and the one used here literally means army corps captain. The goods and money are also needed, but above all, large quantities of high-quality monster cores will likely be needed from here on out. Since it was at a degree where it was never enough, he looked with glee at the sight of them being carried out of the dungeon. However, with 350,000 sending in any more soldiers would fare badly, even when danger was expected. Contact suddenly cut off was unexpected. If threats existed, example, Vildora, was verified, the means for the frontline group to contact all personnel via linked contacting had been prepared, but the results are as shown. The dungeon's entrance is still wide open, yet there were no signs of anyone. What's happening here? Calgary muttered, but his advisors couldn't answer. Meanwhile, the dungeon is a place to explore. It's not meant to be invaded by an army, don't you think? Said a bewitching beauty to Calgary. Dressed in the Empire's Armored Corps uniform, one of Cerberus' bosses, Miranda. Having received a secret order from Yuki, she was to keep tabs on Calgari's actions while observing the situation of Tempest's invasion. However, her position as the headquarter advisor of the Emperor's Armored Corps was the real deal. With befitting abilities, she served as one of Calgari's advisor. Did the little brat Yuki say that? Yes, that person said if you wish to capture the dungeon, you should have sent in only the elites. Ridiculous, I did send in the elites. Calgary gave an ill-tempered answer after hearing her words. Correction. Prided as the Emperor's strongest corps, the armored remodeled corps' 350,000 elites had been sent in. Looking for any more than this would simply be overbearing expectations. The end note, formerly known as the Cybernetic Corps. And yet, after taking them all in, the dungeon still stands. Since we couldn't explore the situation inside, sending in reinforcements is a difficult matter. All we can do now is wait for the survivors to come out, is it? Be at ease. The bracelets with the revival effect have been given to the strong individuals. According to reports, when they die, they would revive outside the dungeon, no? Since no one has appeared, that means the dungeon conquering has been successful thus far. Except we aren't entirely certain that the bracelet's revival effects actually work though. That person said, since the bracelets were created with a skill, they couldn't be replicated. This silenced Calguryo. A corps captain isn't chosen based on strength alone. Even if you can't become one without strength, if one is incapable of grasping the current situation of things, they are not fit for the role. Miranda's words held truth. The revival effect is an unknown factor, but a structure that can't be taken down even with 350,000 elites is unthinkable. A militant force that could burn several large cities as to ashes. They could definitely be called an unreasonable force with confidence. Worst case scenario, they could destroy the dungeon and escape it. 200,000 troops headed towards the capital of Tempest, and the remaining forces number 150,000. One could say they still have 150,000 soldiers, yet it should be thought of as having 150,000 soldiers left. Now that things have reached this stage, Calgary thought perhaps they have underestimated Tempest. Gathering the army's forces and focusing entirely on taking down the capital of Tempest would be the best course of action. Calgary was lost in thought. Then, leave a few communication squad here. We will reinforce the Tempest capital attacking forces, and then contact the dungeon capturing force and organize a search team. He didn't have the chance to finish his sentence. The situation had started to show change as the inflowing whirl had swallowed Calgary and company. Fighting at multiple fronts shall become their damnation. When the Empire's army had finished charging into the dungeon, their capital warfront, on the other hand, had not progressed at all. Only a few kilometers away from their current point, it was but a stone's throw away. They've spent a day to set up base and send only the reconnaissance team to scout out the capital's surroundings. Towards the Empire's army, Gerudo laughed scornfully. No matter how much they scouted, it was meaningless for no ambushes were stationed. Since they were too close to the capital to deploy traps, this time it will become a straight up a head-on collision. They were overwhelmingly disadvantaged in terms of numbers. However, Gerudo's role is to stall, to maintain the frontline defenses of the capital, a battle tactic that the Dwarven King is most skilled at, to launch powerful magic behind protective troops forming a wall. The end note, that's kinda standard. To Gerudo, this was a clean and simple strategy, and the ones launching the powerful magic spells are the Kurenai. They, who are Benimaru's personal guards, will become the cornerstones of this battle. In addition, there's the enforcement from the Great Jura Forest's high-ranked existences, the Yojutsu squad of 5,000. They could have gathered more, but this time, there is a focus on those with high attack power. The rest would be prepared for in case when Gerudo falls for the final clash. At the moment, they were formed by the Human Volunteer Squad and should currently be assigned into groups. The squadron of 5,000 Jujutsu users is led by Benimaru's self-proclaimed spouse, Mumiji, the Tengu, for my husband Sama, Victory, now loading Tiano. And so she invigorated the masses heartwarmingly. It looks like the hurdles had already been cleared, and by now it's already an established fact. The end note, while literally means the surrounding moat has been filled, derived from the saying to fill the outer moat. Deriving from Sengoku era, in a nutshell, it means to reach the objective you must first clear the obstacle. The obstacle. Given the context, the authors most likely implying that Momiji had cleared the hurdles of romance, I think. God knows when, don't ask me. At the strategizing stage, it would seem Momiji is above Benimaru, thought Gerudo, though the person in question might unexpectedly not dislike this. The end note, I guess it's true when they say love is a battlefield. If he really disliked it, he would have dealt with it long ago. If that ain't it, the title Supreme Commander would weep. The backline support are perfect. Our means of attack are ready. Afterwards, the Empire's army and our own army, whether their barriers are stronger and how to defend against their magic attacks, these will be the deciding factors of this battle. That would be the case. Under normal circumstances, in this battle, there's Sean under Gerudo's supervision, and she declared that she would take independent action, doing as she pleases. This would usually be considered an outrageous act. But if they want to offset the current overwhelming disadvantages status quo of fewer numbers, a wild card like Sean just might work, and Binimaru ordered. Just leave her be, she's probably got something in mind. At that moment, when the enemy is thrown into chaos, aim and strike, he said. Gerudo's job now is to become an absolute wall that the enemy army shall not pass. They'll put all their heart into defending, and soon Sean will cause chaos in the midst of the enemy army. When the chance arises, they're focused completely on full-on firepower, simple and straight. Since Gerudo believed in Benimaru, he'll fulfill his duty without doubt. And so, after the 24-hour standoff, the battle began. Gerudo's defenses was impregnable. The Empire's forces were unable to destroy the combined might of 17,000 high orcs from the yellow core, yellow number, and the orange core, orange numbers. The portable sorcery cannons were nullified by Gerudo's unique skill, Guardian, as it grants his entire army with an ironclad defense. In addition, with his unique skill, Gourmet allowed for goods in his stomach to be shared amongst everyone in the corps. The various injuries sustained would be healed with magic by the backline support team, and major ones would be healed using recovery potions. Rather than simply for this war, a large amount of recovery potions would always be stored within his stomach in case of emergency situations. Deterioration never happens, so through the effects of stomach, Gerudo's subordinates could take out potions at any time. Considering this from the military logistics point of view, a troop that could heal the injured on the spot without moving away have become a second trustworthy defensive wall after the impregnable wall. The end note sounds confusing, I know, but that's what it says. Above the second corps, led by Gerudo, someone was floating in the skies overlooking them below. It was Carrera, his demon lord, alongside two attendants, were assigned to the second corps as the military intelligence officer. As a soldier, Gerudo gladly accepted the girls and told them to act as they see fit. In reality, with Gerudo completely focused on the role of a wall, there was nothing for Carrera to do. Carrera had received secret orders from Rimuru to protect Gerudo. It's most likely Testarossa and Ultima had to received had to receive similar orders for amongst the Emperor's army, or some so strong that not even the executives could handle them, and to stall for time by being their foe is their role. The note funny, pretty sure those two were under house arrest at the dungeon's lowest floor. But things are different now. The reason? Go all out. This was the heaven sent order from their most beloved master Rimuru. However, they also understood if they went overboard, he would be displeased, as seen from Ul and Testa. Not to overdo it, but go all out. In conclusion, Carrera decided to release a nuclear strike magic from the skies. Well, wait a moment, please, Carrera-sama, what are you planning to do now? Her Archdemon Vice Officer Agera frantically stopped her. Her sensitivity to signs allowed her to read Carrera's actions, a skill honed over a long span of time, a genius that has experienced much of life. The note, Agera's gender wasn't specified as a female, it just sounds feminine. Oh yeah, Agera, is something wrong? I was just thinking of initiating a mid-air nuclear explosion and roasting the ground with the excess heat. How's that? I've contemplated about this. I don't strike them directly and would perfectly held back. Splendid, it's perfect, as expected of Carrera-sama. Splendid was it. Shut up, you. Are you certain, Carrera-sama? I do not believe this is truly holding back. What did you say? The one who has ample life experience, Agera, after silencing her irresponsible esprit's flattery, had politely explained as if to a child. Her superior Carrera had a personality like a runaway car with no brakes. It's going to be very hard work calming her. Her strength was immense and equally difficult to manage. Her colleague Esprit, who should be carrying the load with her, was only a useless bum who'd just follow Carrera around. The result, she was made to carry all the weight, making this a less than desirable working environment. She could probably barely manage Testarossa, who was malevolent but had reason, and Ultima, who had restraint but simply overdid it. However, Carrera, who always went all out, was no good. Agera didn't have the mentality to watch her go all out and laugh it off alongside her. No, so far it would have been fine. Even amongst the strongest demons, they were elites. Someone who could order them around didn't existed. However, in this era, if they want to gain the attention of Demon Lord Rimuru, it's essential that they must start to remember using their brains. She has already started doing so. Even so, to get her superior Carrera to also have the ability to start thinking a little was her sincere wish. And so the worldly wise Agera politely explained to Carrera. Carrera was someone who'd get bored easily with long explanations, so the explanation was kept simple, concise. It was a difficult task, but when it was done, suddenly abnormal changes were happening at the enemy front lines. Leading the Yomigairi, Sean and her personal subordinates had begun to move. Their number, 10,000, personally trained by Sean herself. Putting it in a nutshell, the Yomigairi was a troop composing of her fans. T and note, the Sean fan club. Any new recruits? Their numbers were their numbers weren't high, but from what Carrera observed from the skies, they possessed a remarkably high combat prowess. Due to Sean's unique skill, all members of Yumigairi were clad in a terror haki. 10,000 soldiers transformed into terror knights as they pummeled the Empire's armies, instigating fear into the hearts of enemies, breaking their battle spirits, sealing off the enemy's own abilities while one-sidedly unleashed unrestrained violence onto them. The effects were tremendous. Donning bluish-purple armor crafted by the elder brother of the three dwarves, Garm himself, Sean's personal forces dominated the battlefield. There are three giants emitting a ridiculous amount of demonic aura as they rampaged about. They are the three sons of the demon lord Dagruel. The three, also clad in terror haki, had become the literal incarnation of violence as they went berserk. They were like three vortexes in the middle of the battlefield, mowing down the Empire soldiers like weeds. Excluding the three giants, each individual of Sean's personal forces displayed overwhelming level of strength and magic essence. She didn't know what kind of training did they undergo, but even from a demon's point of view, Agera still felt a threatening feeling. Hey, Agera, while we were here listening to your boring story, it looks like Sean had stolen a march on us, huh? Agera felt anxiety, considering Carrera's lack of restraint to begin with would get even more explosive when she's angry. Furthermore, if the target of Carrera's anger is her, she could give up on the notion of staying alive. Carrera-sama, There are some standby troops intact in the back line. Wouldn't that suffice? Spirit was like, be thankful, you idiot. His gaze seemed to be conveying this message while his finger pointed elsewhere. And over there was an army of 200,000 soldiers facing the capital on standby in their camp. Carrera nodded and smiled. Oh, there are indeed. Ain't that neat? Let's dig in. Take a note, not dig in as in eating, but in this context, it's more like having a go at them. She nodded with a satisfied look. Agera didn't try to stop her anymore. If her superior ran amok, and got reprimanded, she'll come up with something then. Because right now, what's most important is to make sure she's not pissed at her. The hardships of the world-wise Agera had just begun. And so, the second forces camped at the camp prepared to attack the capital was destroyed by an attack from above. Their permanent barrier was nullified by their own creation, the magic counselor, and was struck by the bombardment of a large-scale annihilation magic. Agera and Esprit each worked to disable various kinds of barriers. Immediately afterwards, Carrera aimed for the right timing and invoked her magic, a type of nuclear strike magic, gravity collapse. Suddenly, gravitational strength spiked drastically. The soldiers couldn't withstand their own weight and was crushed by it. Setting up camp at a wide open space was the exact reason why they couldn't escape the demon's eyes. If the gravitational strength was too powerful, the super dense gravity would have imploded and caused a huge explosion. But this time, Carrera slightly held back. She had tentatively took in Agara's advice and pulled her punches, and so an explosion didn't occur. The majority of those who couldn't resist it died, and the magic dissipated. And so, to the army, this was no light loss. Carrera was satisfied with this one strike and ordered a retreat. She returned to support Gerudo, and now all that's left is for the Empire's army to take this devastating blow. However, for them, this was fortunate for it had happened so quickly. They were spared no time to feel terror or regret as they left for the afterlife. Conversely, those who lived buried under a mountain of bodies had fear encroach their very souls, created a distrust towards the empire, and amidst all this could only lament about their own stupidity. And so, this battle near the capital's vicinity had developed into a one-sided trampling by Sean, while their reinforcements were crushed by Carrera. And Gerudo's wall had hardly fallen at all, as they pushed back the Empire's army without losing any ground. The Tempest capital defensive battle was a complete victory. With the capital defensive battle over, the war situation had shifted to the cleaning up. The la- to wala. The war situation had shifted to cleaning up the last of the Empire's forces. End of chapter 159.